The first time I was going to sign up for a startup weekend, I passed by the registration and I turned it down because I was afraid. There's not enough people who look like me, making a bunch of excuses. And it bothered me so much to the point where the next year I decided to do it. And that helped me to have the confidence to build the first prototype for my system.
It's just something that I live. It's just something that I live. It's just something that I live that this world don't live. It's just something that I feel that this world don't feel. I gotta keep it real.
Welcome to the Let Bob Podcast. It's your boy Ant. Today we got a special guest coming from a space in the industry unfamiliar to the community. When I heard about his business and what he was doing, by me being in the financial space for an ample amount of time now, I was like, wow, really? Because I just never have encountered a black man, especially in the industry, in the capacity that Mr. Cory Roberson is. And I brought him on here to really just introduce and like let him tell us what he's doing and tell us about his company. Because again, you just don't hear about brothers in the space that he's in and what he's doing. So we are happy to be a partner with you and let you provide services to our company. And I just want to, hear from you and just more importantly, figure out like how did you even get in the space and how did you get in the position you're in right now? So if you would just tell us your name and your company and we can go from there.
Sure. First off, I'm honored just to be on your podcast. My name is Cory Roberson. I'm founder and CEO of Fin Compliance. Fin Compliance is a collaborative we have a few brands under our business, but long story short, we provide compliance and training systems for the financial service industry. So that includes everything from investment advisors, broker dealers, private funds, private SPVs, different types of vehicles within the financial service space. And how did I start? I've started I've been in the industry for more than 20 years. Okay. And so I started just working in compliance and operations. I worked for a few firms in Menlo Park. I'm from the Bay Area. And I also worked for a mutual fund and a hedge fund in Los Angeles. And so that's the beginning of that experience, just building up my own practice and firm. And then I'll go into it as well. I have a few stories, so I'll put a timeline on certain stories so that you can get a frame or context. So I went through this period of trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my life, like a lot of people go through. And so I was working in the investment industry, and then I also had a passion for work with kids. So I was like, how do you figure out how to blend both worlds together? And I went through this period of, I'm going to try it out and I'm going to see what happens. And so I was working in the investment industry. I wasn't satisfied with just working in that particular space of things. And so what I did is I quit a job. So I quit in 2008, right before the huge financial crash, that happened that August or September of that year. In April, I quit and then I went traveling. So I wanted to just explore all of the passions, all of the things that I had inside of me. I think that's a common thing with entrepreneurs. And so I quit a job and I went to several countries in Africa. So I did an African safari for about almost 8 weeks. And so that was kind of like the beginning of the journey of exploration. And my goal at that time was I wanted to put together a travel journal of my experiences. And so I went to several countries, landed in South Africa, went all the way from South Africa all the way to Kenya, taking a camper thing. And we camped in different countries and different game parks. Then I ended in Kenya. And then I came back. I was living in LA at the time. And then I was like, I want to explore what does it look like working with kids. So I got involved in several Teach English programs and after school programs. And so I went from working in the investment industry, compliance and operations, to working with kids, to traveling, to not really having a clear idea of what's next. And I think that was a part of the journey into where I am today, is just trying out different things. So trying out, exploring, what does this look like? What does this look like doing this? But at the time, I didn't have enough discipline to really put things together. Like, how does this look? And so there's more to the story, of course. But that's kind of like the beginning, is exploration, just really trying to figure things out. And to today's business is a culmination of pretty much everything that I've experienced over the last 15 plus years. So if it means working with kids, I still mentor to a few nonprofit programs to this day. If it means working in the investment industry, well, I have a consulting. It first started as a consulting business, and then it's turned now into a reg tech business as well. So we've combined consulting and reg tech together into one brand.
No, that's good stuff. And I think like it's good to hear that you didn't just start where you are, right? I think sometimes people think you just start there, right? They don't know like all these other failures often, or
I had to go through it. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, those hard decisions you have to make, quitting your job. Like, we have entrepreneurs on the podcast all the time, and consistently you hear about sacrifices like that, right? You have to be willing to do what everybody else won't do.
That's true.
You end up where you are, right? But I think often people think you just got here, man. You're lucky.
It's a miracle. I thank God every day. It's really His grace. Like with everything that I've been through, the ups and downs. So that's another story. So what happens when you quit a job and you don't have the discipline to work out a plan at that time? You start running out of money. What does it look like when you're running out of money? Then certain bills don't get paid. Things get neglected. So I had to go through that period the hard way of understanding what it was like to have out of control credit card debt, having running out of money to where I had to go back home to live with my parents for a season. What does it look like when you can't afford to do the basics? Well, you have to get up and do something, right? So that's part of the motivation that brought me to this point now, is like doing nothing is not an option. So I had all this experience working in the investment industry, and I had this experience working with kids, but I didn't want to be a teacher. Okay. So I was like, okay, I need to make some money. I didn't make that too, but then I have these creative pursuits. And so over this 15 years or so, it was a culmination of experimenting, trying things out, being willing to take that risk, of course, and then putting things together slowly. What does it look like? So I was in the beginning of that journey after leaving and then going through a period of running out of money. I almost gave up. I was just like, well, I just need to find a job. I just need to find compliance officer, investment industry, whatever type of job, whatever is the easiest way to just get stable, so to speak. The only problem is that during the time, I think it was like 2009, 10, the economy wasn't the best at the time. And it was like, well, you're not getting any opportunities that look good. So what are you going to do? You're going to have to do something. So I worked with an after school program at the same time I was building the consulting business. So just to get a little bit of money coming in. But it was at a point where even my bank account was going red at the time, because what I was getting from the after school program barely covered gas. So it teaches you grit, determination, prayer is like help me. Like literally, I got my first client while I was working in the after school program, and then it took time. That client referred me to other people, and I was looking for a mentor. Told me this once, is what is the quickest way to money? What service can you offer somebody's going to sign up like immediately? You're taking away the friction from there. So that's kind of what I worked on, my service model, just for me being a consultant, so $500 website at the time, and then just working on a basic service. And then over the next, 13 years, it's evolved from there. So I spent time going to investment conferences. So I went to investment conferences around the world, really. Hong Kong, Dubai, went to some in other parts as well, just to learn about what does the investment landscape look like globally, not just in the US. And so when I was building the business, I was learning everything I could, because even though I worked in the industry with compliance and investments, it's when you have your own business, you have to learn the bigger picture. You have to learn a little bit more about that.
That's good.
Bob, is what does the bigger picture look like? What does your market look like? So all of those things I took time to research besides just the job. When you're learning just the functions of doing your A to Z, you need to learn how the market operates and then the A to Z within your particular service or business.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think that part gets missed too, right? It's a lot of work that goes in studying your industry, studying your competitors, see what they do, really good, see where they have struggle points at. I think that's just a part of any business that you are building and operating. And I don't think that's something that ever goes away, right? I think you should always be learning, right? Always be learning, right? That's my attitude about business and how I approach it. Is what can I learn from the market today? What works today may not work, in 6 months or 6 years. And so constantly just being aware of my industry and opportunity presenting itself. Because like for us, when I first started Bob back in 2018, it wasn't cool to be a black man in finance. Right, that wasn't gonna work, right? And so we hid me for a while when we first started. But George Floyd was murdered. It became acceptable to have a black face as your business and finance. And so Earn Your Leisure really did a great job of kind of creating a pathway for that, because like when you think about finances now in the black community specifically, Earn Your Leisure has a really solid footprint. Right. And so that really helped us as a business be able to kind of just change how we present ourselves to the marketplace. Now it's more of a movement than anything. We have products, we have services, but it's the Bob movement, man. It's like there is a sense of pride in being a black owned business. There's a sense of pride in being Bob, right? And so we build our partners and we talk to them on our I am Bob campaign. Is like they're happy about it because they're Bob. That's something that can't be taken from you. You're Bob. Like nobody can take that from you. Black-owned business, and it's something that can't be challenged, can't be taken. And so what we're seeing in our movement is that there's a lot of pride in that. But then also there's a lot of pride from our partners who are not black-owned businesses that they support Bob. I support a black-owned business, and so there's pride in that too. And so what we're finding as we evolve as a social impact technology company, that it's just people are kind of looking for something to believe in our community when it comes to black business. And so I think we are showing up really good right now in getting things done and making people aware of your Cory Roberson, so that the little Johnny sitting in the projects can see, oh man, I could be some other than a basketball player, or I could be some other than an entertainer. I could be, in compliance in the finance industry. And so that's what we're trying to create, just a lot of awareness. And with our platform here on our podcast, like that's our primary focus, showing off Bob's.
Awesome. And you can flip it how you want. Like, so you don't just have to be labeled in one category. So if you're wealth tech, fintech, reg tech, compliance, you're a mentor with kids, you're this, you're that. You don't have to be defined in just one window, which I love about the Let Bob platform too, is that this is providing exposure, to different in the investment stream of things. But really, Bob is about entrepreneurship, creativity, innovation, all of that, a culmination of things. So it's definitely important to see that. And we don't always get to share our story. So it's important to share, like, besides just what we see, there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes in fintech, red tech, wealth tech, the investment industry that isn't shown. And so it's our job of those who are exposed to it to show it to other people.
Yeah, no, 100%. Transparency is necessary, right? These kids, these students need to see other options. They need to know about finance. Like, it's the common denominator across anything you do in life is your finances.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be amazed. Like, when I was speaking at a event, one of the questions was like, why are people afraid to talk about money? Like, why don't, as a community, specifically in our community, why aren't we discussing finances more frequently? And that's a tough question, right? In my journey, I remember when I was, broke, didn't have, and I was struggling, trying to, make ends meet before I learned about money management. I didn't talk to anybody. When I was messed up, man, I didn't talk to anybody.
You don't share that stuff. You just bury it.
I should have been sharing my circumstance, because for some reason we have this idea that we don't talk about it, it'll fix itself. But technically, if you talk about it, somebody might have an answer or a resource or an opportunity for you to get out of your situation. So speaking of is actually the better way to do it. But, I can say personally, when I was down and out, I didn't want to share it with anybody when I was struggling.
No, that's one of the reasons I do support groups, business and career support groups. To this day, I do one once a month, is because there's a lot of stuff that we are not sharing, or it's just something that you feel that shame. And it's like, it's not like, I'll tell you a story now. I didn't do it then. I'll tell you, like, hey, I know what it looks like when your credit card is out of control, or you just don't have anything coming in, or you're just like, or your credit score goes from this to all the way at the bottom of the sink. What does it look like to get through that or to overcome it? And don't be ashamed, because that's a lot of our stories. And the story could be powerful if you can use it in a way that's can help someone else out, saying like, hey, this isn't my story here. Your story, Anthony, is overcoming challenges. And so this is what it looks like when you're overcoming challenges. Is like, we're human. We all make mistakes.
Yep.
And so you can relate to me, because I understand what this looks like when you don't want to talk about this or this challenge or this thing, but you're seeing everyone else who's super successful or this and that. And you're like, I can never get to that point. That's a lie, And
I think if you haven't seen someone who looked like you doing it, right, it creates even a bigger challenge.
Sure.
But to your point, everybody has something going on, man. Like,
we all do. That's
everybody. And so speaking up, sometimes you could feel embarrassed about your situation, but everybody has a situation. My situation may not be financial. Maybe it's mental struggles that I'm having, right? It's always something.
Exactly. There's always something.
Always something, right? And so talking about it actually relieves some of the tension. That's why I'm a fan of therapy, and of having someone to talk to, because trying to solve everything in your mind and not sharing out what's going on could cause a mental weight that, some people in their lives over, and so
that's true.
What we want to see is share more, show more Black business owners and let them explain their journey, so that you normalize the part of struggle in building a business, right?
Yeah.
It's not unique to any one business owner, and then you have some business who don't struggle. You have some business who they start at the gate and they're on fire from start to, all the way to maintaining a positive cash flow for the life of the business. But that's an anomaly, right?
Exactly. And more power to them. God bless them. Or some who, have a huge, maybe they're wealthy already, or their parents or their family is wealthy. So that version of struggle might look differently. It might not be financial, as you're mentioning. It might be something else, So it's always looking at it from that lens. Perspective is everything. So even if it's not a financial struggle, it might be something else where me to seem like, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this, or I need to see that someone else shares this experience.
No, that's correct. And making sure you have, a good solid circle around you, right? A good solid team running with you so that they can identify when you are having issues or, need a shoulder. Because leading a company is terribly hard. You're the visionary, it's your duty to kind of keep everybody hyped up. So you don't want to show them that, you're worried about how the next check is going to come to cover payroll or cover whatever.
You're right. New challenges. Yep.
Yeah. And then yourself, there's been several times, I'll pay out of my pocket to make sure everybody on my team is tight.
Yeah, my too. Yeah, really.
That's what it is, right? That's what it's supposed to be. And so, like, at the end of the day, when Bob reaches a place where we want it to be, it's a lot of hard work, sweat, and tears went into that, right? And that's any business that have someone committed to building it out. So it's exciting to talk to a brother in finance, though. Like whenever I can get a brother on here that's in finance, it's the equivalent of getting a brother on here that's in tech. And it's rare that I can get one or the other, but when I do, I'm excited about it because I don't have to. You should know that I already know the struggle that it took to get where you are because I know the finance space. Like we don't get there, right? So you have to have a level of commitment, a level of grit, to your point, a level of hustle, definitely a level of execution skills to get where you are. And so anytime I can get, someone on here in your position is always delightful to see a different narrative, especially one in finance.
Yeah, that's true. And it's believing that it's possible because I'm a non-technical founder myself, but I know of things and know the bigger picture and the scope of things. Learn about it. So I would tell anyone is I did a startup weekend entrepreneurial tech pitch. It's like a 3-day weekend event just to get exposed to all things tech. The first time I was going to sign up for a startup weekend, I passed by the registration and I turned it down because I was afraid, because it was something that I was like, well, there's not enough people who look like me, making a bunch of excuses and really saying, oh, I'm not smart enough to do that, or I'm not smart enough, that's not for me. And it bothered me so much to the point where the next year I decided to do it and conquer, just that fear. Not only did I do that, but I did one in Brazil too. So I went to Brazil. Yeah, so I went to Brazil to do a startup weekend event because I was like, you know what? I'm going to challenge myself outside of the country. Going here, and it was a nice vacation too, but Rio and Sao Paulo. Nice, but the goal at that point was to challenge myself completely outside of my comfort zone, to do something that I wasn't exposed to. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. They translate stuff to English anyway. And I was like, you know what? And that helped me to have the confidence to build the first prototype for my system. And so it was just a decision to say like, hey, you know what? I'm going to try it. And I'm going to put myself out there. We had to do a pitch at the end of the 3 days. And that was nerve-wracking, but I did it. So, as a business owner, entrepreneur, you have to be willing to put yourself out there. Even if you're a behind the scenes type of person, you have to say like, hey, you know what? Sometimes I need to just be in front because I have to propel or I have to sell the vision or the course of the business. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, this podcast is an example of me doing that, right? So, I don't really like being out front.
Not me there.
It's necessary, man, because it's bigger than me. It's about the kids for me, man. I want them to be able to see someone who look like them using their mind to generate wealth. Like that's just so important to me. And so even though I'm not always excited to get on the podcast or get on the social media side of things, I know that it's a bigger picture like that we're working on, right?
That's true.
It's just really, really important. I love talking to my guests because I love talking to other business owners and people who I know have a certain level of grit based on where they are. I love those back and forth discussions, but it is challenging to be out front. Like that's always been a big one for me. But I use the vision to comfort me, and I don't complain. I just get down, because that's what you have to do as a entrepreneur, as a business owner. You have to be willing to get down. That's the only way it's gonna work. And another more important thing is,
that's true.
I think I don't know if I got a cold email from you guys, or I don't know how
I think it was. Yeah. I don't play with that. Like I work harder than most with that kind of stuff.
Oh, really? So
yes, I do. Yes.
I see the email, and I'm not even sure why I called, because I generally don't respond to cold emails. Just being honest, I don't do that.
Yeah.
And so I saw it, and I think it may have been something in the email. I'm like, let me call this company and see, what's what. And then when I was talking to you, I think I asked you, I was like, you a brother? And you was like, yeah. I was like, oh man, you got my business. Whatever. Just send me the contract. We good. We in the compliance side of things, or any partnerships in our journey, we've never been able to partner with a Black-owned company. We haven't had one.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah. There's not a lot of us out there. I know. It's and that's part of just the importance of sharing our story, is that even when I share my stories or what I do, a lot of people don't fully understand it. Yeah. Which I know. It's because we're in the space of this that it's not known to everyone.
Correct.
And so it's getting outside of that. Like there's a whole different world out there. There's people who are raising millions of dollars from VCP equity vehicles, in fintech investments, all these different things going on. This is what it looks like. Yeah,
no, you're right. My family, they don't know what I do.
What are you doing?
But it looked like I sell drugs, though. It do. I work for my home office. I'm never really complain. I'm not stressed or anything. They see me move around. So they're like, you say work. Then my team is remote, right? So nobody's here. So they don't see me working with anybody. So it's like, okay, yeah. So what is it you do again? So it's kind of funny, because finance is not, it's simple, but it's not. I think if the content is deliberate about how it's communicated and created, I think simplify it. I think what you see in the marketplace is just very intimidating content around finance and tech. And so we're adamant about where we have an opportunity, taking that content and just making it more embraceful of our culture, and making you feel and see people who look like you, to create desire for you to learn more. You should know about finance. 2 things you should know about in 2024 for sure, moving forward, is finance and technology. Those 2 things control everything you do in life. And if you're not aware of them, then you're only going to become a victim of both. So I'm an advocate of the community really taking time to embrace the technology as it's continued to evolve. It's only going to get smarter and smarter. And then the finance is necessary to survive in this marketplace. It's just, you just have to know that, right? But looks like we're almost out of time here. We really appreciate you for coming on, sitting down, talking to us, telling us about your journey, telling us about how your checking account was red and you didn't know what to do and had nobody to talk to, but you didn't give up. So we definitely appreciate you giving us that authentic history about yourself. Do you have like any socials, websites you want to give out before I end the show?
Yes, I do. So you can visit me, and I learned a little bit about our story on Fin Compliance, which is FIN's compliance.io. And I have a little blurb about some of the things we talked about in this podcast as well. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook, and just be well. And then also I do business and career support groups. So they're currently in Richmond, California, but we do have some virtual options as well. So please reach out to me or Anthony for more information.
Thank you so much, Cory. Again, thank you for coming on the show, giving us your time. We do value that a ton. So this has been another great episode of the Let Bob podcast. You can find us, Let Bob, on all social medias at We Are Let Bob, and you can find me personally on all social media at I Am Let Bob. And we are out.
It's just something that I live that this world don't live. It's just something that I feel that this world don't feel.